Snowpiercer is a 2013 post-apocalyptic film where climate change won. Scientists around the world attempted to reverse global warming, what we now call climate change, by shooting an artificial cooling agent up into the atmosphere. But it turns out that it worked too well, and it basically caused another ice age, leaving the planet uninhabitable. The only survivors are those on board the Snowpiercer, which is a massive train that continuously, non-stop, circles the globe. It basically has to constantly move in order to generate heat so that it doesn't freeze like the rest of the world did. It's kind of like if you live somewhere where it snows, you have to warm your car up in the morning at first. Basically, if this train ever stops, everybody on board is going to freeze to death and suffer the same fate of those who could not make it on the train. The train has a strict hierarchy, with the wealthy living towards the front and in the middle of the train, and all the poor people to the back. The film basically follows a group of rebels from the back of the train whose entire goal is to get to the front so that they can take things over and make things better for those who are in the back. This movie just proves that society will always find a way to create hierarchy. They are literally on a train where they have an opportunity to start fresh, and somehow they still resort to classism. Anyone who challenges the hierarchy is subject to punishment, including having their arm frostbitten by the harsh weather outside, and then having that ice block of their arm hammered off. Oh, and if that wasn't bad enough, they eat these black gelatin-like bars instead of actual food. And then they eventually find out that the bars are made of, well, you're just gonna have to watch to see for yourself. I give this film 5 stars. I have watched it so many times. It's definitely one of my faves. Runtime for Snowpiercer is about 2 hours, so it is a little lengthy, but it is totally worth it, I promise. At the time of this recording, you can find it on Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon. Everything from this point on will contain spoilers for Snowpiercer, so if you haven't seen it yet and you don't want spoilers, save this video and come back after you do. But before you go, make sure you like this video so I know that you enjoyed it, and leave a comment if you have something to say. I just love when the have-nots win. I really do get a kick out of it, I'm not even gonna lie. Especially after finding out that they were feeding these people ground-up grasshopper. I mentioned earlier that humans are a little predictable in the sense that we will find a way to create classes where classes should not exist. But they also found a way to make drug addiction exist. People are snuffing this chrono on the train. It really is fascinating how history repeats itself. I think we also see that predictability in how they speak about Wilford. They talk about him almost as if he's some type of god, even though we find out that he is very much just a regular man. I wanted to clarify what I meant here. I say that this is a predictable human behavior because the humans on this train created a faith and created a god out of Wilford because they felt like they needed some sort of base of reality and needed to have someone to worship. So they created a god out of a regular everyday man. Granted, he did create the engine that is running the Snowpiercer, but still, he's not some omnipotent god, he's just a regular guy. One of my favorite scenes in this movie is when they're having that epic fight scene when they go through the dark in the tunnel. They're going head to head with the soldiers from the front of the train. A little earlier in the movie, we find out that bullets are extinct, or so we thought. So right at the beginning of that scene, the soldiers take a fish and they take their weapons to cut it and show that, yeah, these are real weapons, so don't think that we're playing any games over here. We're really about to slaughter y'all. That scene is just so perfectly done, in my opinion. We know that they're getting ready to go through this dark tunnel. Now, they don't realize that they don't even know that the tunnel is there because they spent all of their life in the back of the train. But of course, the soldiers know that the tunnel is there. They're gearing up with their night vision goggles, like they're getting ready to see everything. And you just know you're about to get a good fight, and a good fight you do get. And then you have the lead woman say, yeah, about 74% of y'all are not going to be alive after this is over.
Precisely 74% of you shall die.
And it's just like, oh, it's just about to go down. Now, the ones who do survive that encounter go through all these different sections of the train, and they start finding out these people not only have sushi, but they have dentists. Someone is getting their suit tailored. They have a nightclub. I mean, they really are living good at the front of this train. Meanwhile, it all comes out that the people in the back of the train have really been struggling. Not only did they have to resort to cannibalism within the first year, but they really just been struggling and have been kept in this position to not know what's going on at the front of the train at all. They had no idea people were living this good. And much like society on the outside of the train, we also find out that they are actively inciting violence so that people kill each other off to control the population on the train so that they can control the food and they can keep everything in order. Finding out that Wilford is in fact the one who's been sending the messages. As I was editing, I realized I never mentioned these messages. So it turns out that Wilford was sending these secret messages inside of the bars that they were eating as a way to keep them updated on what was happening at the front of the train so that they would know when to rebel. It was basically like they had a secret spy at the front, and it was all a ruse because it turned out that it was Wilford the entire time, and they had no idea that these messages were coming directly from the top. And basically finding out that his mentor has been in on it the whole time. Not only that, he's essentially been grooming him to become the new leader so that he can start taking over all this stuff. It is corruption on top of corruption, and even the people who are on the bottom are intertwined with the people on the top to keep order in the train. At the end of the day, this movie comes down to keeping order on the train, and even the have-nots are participating in that. We also find out why it is that they've been stealing children from the back of the train, and it's because they need them to actually manually run the engine because the engine is not running by itself anymore. And they need children under 5 because they're small enough to fit in between the crevices, all of this mechanical stuff. After finding all of this out, Curtis basically has a decision to make. Is he gonna take over the front of the train as a new Wilford? Or is he going to tell everybody in the back, hey, this is not good, and kind of sacrifice the order of everything? I can't say that I would not have taken Wilford up on his offer. I probably would have been like, yeah, I'll run the front of the train. Why? Because we don't know what things are like outside, and I'd rather be inside on a warm train eating ground up grasshopper than outside and you don't even get to survive. I don't know. I can't say that I would have done what Curtis did because at the end he does decide to go the route of just destroying the train completely. So we find out that as they were going through all the different sections of the train and passing around these different parts of the planet basically, that there's this plane, and when the train first started circulating, the plane could barely be seen. Just the tiny tip of the tail of the plane. But now almost the entire plane can be seen, which can only mean that the snow is melting, which means that the temperature is starting to rise outside. Not to dangerous levels, but starting to rise to a level that humans could actually survive in. So knowing that Chrono is super explosive, they use it to blow up the gate on the train. I don't know if they intended to blow up the entire train, but nevertheless, that's what ends up happening. And they basically throw the entire train off of his tracks. So the train is no more. We don't know if everybody survives that crash. We don't even know if Curtis survives that crash. We only see 2 people at the end of the movie after the train crashes, and that's the 17-year-old girl who was addicted to Chrono and the little kid who was the son of one of the rebels. Now we also see a polar bear, and I haven't really been able to connect what that was supposed to mean. I think that the polar bear is supposed to signify life. We see them walking through the soft snow, so we know that the snow is softer and not frozen solid. And we see a polar bear, so we know that things are able to live. However, polar bears are designed to live in cold, so I don't really know if that was it. Maybe if that ending scene would have been a brown bear or something, I'd have been like, oh, things are surviving here. But I'm not quite sure what the polar bear was supposed to represent other than there are living things out here. All in all, I love Snowpiercer. As I said, I've watched it so many times. I think it's a great film. If you've seen it, let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you want to keep in touch outside of this video, subscribe to my channel or come hang out with us over on Discord, and I'll see you next time. Subscribe. Almost if it freezes to death because motorcycles just also never stop running. When the have-nots, not only did they resort to, and they're going head ahead, to use the Chrono to blow. It turns out, why? Because we don't know what things are out like side. And they basically told, bro.
Met her at Coachella, I went to see Chica, she with the CC trip. Perfect, I took the seat on the ice, cold on. She handed me an ice blue bong, whatever.